Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another edition of Fan Fuel Motorsports Podcast. This is the podcast where fans fuel talk about motorsports. Today, we'll be starting our 31st episode out across the pond in what was supposed to be a race at the Spa-Francorchamps. But before we get into that, I'll introduce the people who are always with me, and that's Nathan Ball and Colton Cranmore, and of course our football coach, part-time everything guy, Jared Bakaiza, will be joining us today a little bit late, and we've got some really good stuff in store for you at the end of the show with Jared. But like I said, we're going to be starting with Formula One racing this weekend, and Colton, I know you're not too much of a Formula One guy, but you do know what happened. So I'll go ahead and start off with you. 2 laps behind the safety car in a procession was the race. How do you feel about that as a motorsports fan?
I was super let down by it. I don't know anyone that thinks any differently around the world. Something that I think the FIA could have done to avoid this completely is open the windows for the start times a little bit more. There was plenty of window at least a half hour before that they could have just sped things along a little quicker. To at least get some of this race in, because it's super disappointing. I would hate to have bought a ticket just to sit and watch 2 parade laps out in the rain, and then that be it for the whole weekend. It was super disappointing to see. It was a super eventful weekend leading up to that. We saw it with the W series and all the other series going on, but Nate's doing some.
Yeah, Nathan, I think he's having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, I got my laptop got unplugged there, so I kind of had to fish around for it. But yeah, I think it would have been a good race. I don't blame them for not being able to race, because it wasn't the rain, that was just the visibility that really killed it. And that's part of why they didn't want to race, is because they couldn't see. And that's one thing, but I think it's pretty unfair to just run 2 laps and say, hey, here's points. The fans don't get a race. It's like, if you're going to do that, then I don't think points should be awarded. Why award half points if you can't even complete half the race? And you're not really completing the race, you're just completing laps. So I don't know. It almost seems like they're like, hey, let's just run these 2 laps and get it over with.
Yeah, I think that was a really big disservice to the people who had been out in the weather all weekend. Yeah, they got some racing with some of the support classes, and they got a really good qualifying session on Saturday. But at the end of the day, you don't pay a couple €100 to go see those support classes. You go to see the top 20 drivers in the open world. So they didn't actually get to see that. And some of those people, I'm sure, only showed up to Sunday's race because, that's what we do here in NASCAR too. Even though we've got a full circus some weekends, we just have people who show up for Sunday. It's the big ticket show. I assume that their arguments for doing this are going to be sponsors and the fact that they're in an event that is telecasted, across the world, and there's international guidelines for getting these TV deals done. Maybe, I'm not sure. But honestly, if you didn't even get this race started, why not just say, hey, we're going to call the race? I realize the season is already going into December, but there are a couple of off weekends in the European season still to come that maybe they could reschedule, or I don't know, honor the tickets for next year and have 2 Belgian Grand Prix in a row. I'm not sure how they could fix that. Something like that. It's a little bit ridiculous to say, we did 2 parade laps. Here you go. Congratulations, Max Verstappen, for winning yet another race. They didn't even look really happy on the podium. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass this off to you, Nathan. Lewis Hamilton is not afraid to talk. He has done so. Many of the points are very controversial. Some I have not even agreed with in regards to some things. But this one I did agree with. He came out flat and said, this sucks for you guys. I'm glad you guys are here talking to the fans, and they should give you your money back. Did you agree with that sentiment? And are you happy that a driver spoke out like that? Nathan?
Yeah, I think so, because if you look at it, a lot of the older drivers also did the same thing he did. They didn't mention the refunds, but they mentioned that this isn't really a race. Like, you shouldn't be getting points for this. So I don't blame him. I think he's right, because it's something that, if you look at the history, half points were awarded. It's only happened 6 times. So that's basically like under a 1% chance of ever happening in F1. So they need to prepare for the stuff like that. And I don't think it's fair to cheat the fans out of a race because something that happens like 0.6% of the time is happening again. Like, that shouldn't be the case. Like, hey, it's an extraordinary circumstance. I don't think that the sport was ready for it, if you're being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great point. If I were a fan there, I would absolutely expect my money back. Or, as Alex's point, give me a ticket for next year's race. Call this ticket the same, and we're good. I mean, my heart goes out to the people who traveled, not necessarily just the people who live there. But you got to think there was a family somewhere, or there was a guy somewhere that this was his life's goal to go see it, and he finally got it. Maybe last year wasn't his time because of COVID. And then it was completely ruined this year by circumstances out of our control, right? I mean, the FIA didn't have anything to do with the fact that it was raining, but it's just a lack of preparedness on their part to say, okay, well, here's the steps that happens if we can't race due to visibility or to safety concerns. We'll take this step, this step, this step. There's no pre-planning of that. And to Nate's point, this almost never happens. You can count them almost on one hand the amount of times it's ever happened in history. But there still needs to be some sort of protocol for it.
Yeah, I agree totally with that. That wasn't the only controversy of the weekend, though. With the wet weather conditions, we had a very slick track, and we saw a lot of different accidents. And I'll go ahead and say some of my opinions that we're about to go across are some controversial opinions, so just be prepared to that. But safety concern was a big thing on at least the social media aspect of the Formula One world this weekend, with a couple of different crashes that happened. Now, if you go and you look at the satellite track map, you can see that the run from the first corner down to what's called Al Rouge up into Radion is a little bit of a little flick, just like that, almost a straightaway, especially in modern F1 cars. But they're going up, I believe, 3 stories. So that's where everything happens. And we've seen multiple crashes there in the history of this corner. Very high speed area, very violent in crashes. We had a Formula 2 or 3 driver, Anthony Hubert, tragically lose his life at this very corner just a couple of years ago, as well as even in the GT cars that were racing in the 24-hour race a couple of weeks ago, we saw a massive crash in this exchange of corners. And then Lando Norris in qualifying had a crash. But the one that sparked the most controversy this weekend about the safety of this complex was the W Series. And I'll go ahead and start this off by saying people want to change something about this. But for me, I just thought it was a situational thing, and I didn't really deem it too much of a safety concern because the rain wasn't out. They were pretty much just blasted by rain as they went up into that corner, and there was nothing that was going to happen, in my opinion, that didn't happen, just due to the fact that it turned wet. So
I would probably agree wholeheartedly, because I think that was nothing to do with the corner. Like, that could happen at any corner. Like, it's happened at the Nürburgring in turn 1, which is a first gear hairpin slow corner. If it starts pouring and everyone's on slicks, and they're just going to slide off and off and off. So I don't really think that was the corner's fault. Like, it's a tough corner. Obviously, it's challenging, but that's the reason the drivers like it, because people complain about quote unquote parking lot tracks where you're not punished if you run off. Like, there's so much runoff and you can just go back on track. And I think the corner's going to bite, obviously, whether you go off there in the dry or the wet. And I think I don't want to change that, but at the same time, it's like you have to be fair with the situation. You can't blame a rain crash like that on the corner itself.
Yeah, I agree completely. To my last point, I mean, there are circumstances that you need to be prepared for, and there are certain ones that you just can't be prepared for. The teams had no way of knowing, other than heading in there with the car, that it started raining up there. And so there's nothing you can really do outside of just hitting the water and hope it sticks.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it. But this did spark some controversy with people calling for the corner to be changed, saying that it's one of the most dangerous corners in Formula One, and I do definitely attest to that. However, it seems to be that the general consensus, especially after the dry wrecks that occurred with the 24-hour race, and then also Anthony Hubert's tragic accident, that the trend is you're going left, right, and then a little bit left over the crest at Radeon. And most of the cars veer to the left. Either it's because they got oversteer or understeer, snapped, and then went to the barrier. However they got there, when they hit that tire barrier, they launch directly across a live racetrack to the other side, and they can get blindsided by cars that are coming because it's a really fast corner, so it's going to take a very little amount of time for those two cars to meet because they're going that fast. It doesn't matter how quick a reaction time the driver coming has, they're likely to meet. And then two, it's a blind crest, so you can't really see over the corner anyways. So I did want to pass this question off to you because there seems to be a lot of different theories online between Twitter, people who make YouTube videos about Formula One and elsewhere about how to change this corner and or the track itself around it to make it safer. I mean, what do you guys think?
I think first of all, it's all got to do with runoff, and it's all got to be another variable that most people don't mention is the psychological aspect. Eau Rouge used to have gravel traps there, and you usually didn't see people run wide or abuse the runoff there. There were less mistakes made up there because they knew that a mistake there would end their day. Nowadays, if you run off a little bit to the left at Radeon, you're like, okay, that's fine. I'll go over the rumble strips. I'll keep going. So they're more likely to take that corner as aggressive as they can if they know that there's not really much consequences to go off. So obviously you're more likely to crash there if you're going to be more aggressive in that corner. And I think them adding the gravel traps next year is good because part of it will be different in the sense that the drivers won't be willing to attack the corner as much, but it also won't neuter the corner itself because I don't think it'd be right to completely neuter the corner. It's one of the most iconic corners there is in racing. I don't think any amount of, hysteria from the fan base should change that because, to be honest, a lot of the drivers enjoy it. Like, none of them like the risk that comes with it, but they love the corner itself. So I think if you took that away or you changed the track itself instead of just changing the runoff, then they'd have a fit. And I don't blame them because I don't think drivers would take very kindly to it.
Yeah, so for me, I think I would agree with the same sort of
Yeah, I agree completely. Go ahead.
So when we're going through that corner, whether it's watching someone else do it, doing it on a video game or a simulator, it's just balls to the wall, even though it's not that technical, because of the way that the variation of the track is, because you're trying to straight line it, but also having to depress and then crest. And it's a whole feeling that I'm sure the drivers get nowhere else on the Formula One schedule, and they would miss it. The biggest thing to me about changing it is I wouldn't do it to the track itself, just based on the fact that if they did, it would ruin one of the best corners in Formula One. And I'm not talking about that complex. I'm talking about the corner at the end of the Camel Straight. You're talking about these cars are going so fast into there. They have to brake really hard. It's one of the best passing zones on the circuit. And that would just hurt my feelings as far as racing goes if they did change that complex going into it. Other than that, they are apparently having plans to move the barrier on the left farther out back by terraforming a little bit under the grandstand is there. And I think tearing part of the grandstand that is there down to make it more of a sheer cliff so that they have more room for the runoff. And that's the only thing I can think of to agree with that.
Yeah, I think you make perfect sense because the way the runoff is structured is kind of like it juts out a little bit toward the racetrack on the left hand side. So if you, like he said, just make it a straight barrier, then you're less likely to hit it at a bad angle that sends you back out on the track.
Colton, if you didn't have anything yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys hit all the major points that I was going to. Yeah,
All
that's
right.
pretty much it.
Yeah, well, with that being said, let's get away from Spa and away from the controversy that was the race that wasn't. And let's welcome in our fourth host, and that is Jared
Hey,
Bakaisa.
what's going on? I haven't been on for a while, guys.
Yeah, I know. We've been missing you. You've been at football practice.
I know. I have so much going on. I'm glad I'm actually finally back on a podcast. I've had so much stuff that I need to talk about, and I'm glad I'm actually found some time to get back on.
Well, hell yeah, we're glad to have you back as always. And well, let's go ahead and get on into it. So Daytona, we had a doubleheader this weekend, Xfinity Series and the Cup Series, and let's just go ahead and jump right into the Xfinity Series. It was a race. I'll let you guys kind of share your opinions on it. But first, I do want to talk about Austin Cindric wrecking right at the beginning of the race and kind of what you guys thought about that. His season's kind of going a little bit down the drain at this point.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting. Actually, if you want a fun tidbit about that wreck, my friend in the grandstands who was next to me, Emil, actually got that on camera. He's like, I'm just going to take a video of this lap and see how it goes. And sure enough, his favorite Xfinity driver wrecked out, and he got it on camera. So that was pretty interesting. But I think it goes to show you that nothing's really given to you in racing. If you look at the last few times he's been in crashes, they weren't really his fault. He's just been taken out. Like, it's just unfortunate if you want to say, like, say Nashville, he gets clipped by somebody. Michigan, he gets clipped again. I want to say, Daytona, he just got a push that kind of was off-centered. It wasn't intentional, but he just got a bad push and couldn't do anything about it. So, I mean, it sucks to see it because you don't really like to see somebody's season get, I guess, it's not ruined yet, but if it keeps happening, it's going to be ruined. Like, I don't want to see seasons get destroyed by stuff that's just dumb luck.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Chase Briscoe's in the 60 car. Like, he always got that bad luck thing. It's always
Kyle Larson, maybe, like, I think 2017, the year where he blew all the engines and had all the stuff go wrong.
Colton.
Yeah, I mean, bad luck's just a part of racing. I mean, it sucks that it does keep happening, but I mean, that's just a product of, the points format we got now. You used to be able to get away with a little bit of bad luck here and there and still salvage a really good season. But I mean, we're kind of getting down to crunch time now, where even 1 week of bad luck could just ruin your championship implications completely.
Yeah, and when you bring that up, I did want to say, kind of, this is kind of paralleling what I saw up until this week, obviously with Daytona, the regular season championship and the Cup Series. You saw Denny Hamlin basically run away with the points lead, and then you had bad luck races. You had just not capitalizing on stuff. Eventually, he lost that lead to Larson, and we're kind of seeing that with AJ Allmendinger coming on strong as we get closer to this cutoff for the Xfinity Series playoffs, and Cindric losing those points. I was going to pass this off to Colton. I'm not sure if we only lost his video or if
I guess we lost
as well. But I guess, Jared, I'll pass this off to you. Does this show just how, I guess, like he said, volatile a championship could be just going into a playoffs, and also how does that kind of coordinate itself to having a good full season-long championship where we're seeing someone in both of these series not be able to run away with the title?
Yeah, if you just look away from like playoffs and everything aside, if you want to look at those types of battles, like the full season type standings, it does show that yeah, you need to be consistent like every single race, and like if you do have some bad luck, like Colton's saying, like yeah, bad luck's a part of it, but eventually that bad luck will catch up with you, and you're gonna see guys like what you just said, AJ Allmendinger starting to catch up there, and I think that'd be kind of cool if he ended up winning the championship in the Xfinity Series. So that'd be kind of cool. But even like in the Cup Series too, like Larson's. Like Hamlin's been consistent but doesn't have the wins, but then Larson's also been super hot like the whole season, and that just goes to show where a couple bad races with Hamlin, which obviously some of those things weren't his fault. And I think Nathan had a really good tweet about Hamlin's stats that he's had the last couple races since Pocono too, and yeah, it just shows like what Colt was saying, like there was some bad luck and eventually catches up to you.
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree anymore. I don't like when people say, it's harder to win a championship in the playoffs than it is in full season. And I think from a driver standpoint, I don't think a playoff championship is any harder than a full season championship. I think the only difference is that luck matters a lot more in the playoffs, like you guys said, because, a couple poorly timed blown tires could destroy a whole season.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, if it's a full season format, you got time to work your way back. And it's tough because in today's world, the things out of your control can basically destroy everything. Not saying it can't in a full season; it's just less likely. So,
well, you saw that with Harvick. You saw that with Harvick last year at Texas, like the mist, the rain, and everything. That one bad race, Texas. Guess what? He screwed in that round of 3, and
he had like 60 bonus points or whatever. So it's just. That's why I like the full season championship better, because I know luck's never going to be eradicated in racing. That's just the unfortunate nature. But I think a full season championship gives drivers a chance to have more than just luck dictate their season. Like it's more results oriented.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like hypothetically, Kyle Larson could wreck out at Darlington, blow a tire. He could blow a tire at Darlington, and let's say you get 3 winners or something, like three different winners or something. He could be out. So you never know with that, and that's why I think the full season championship, you actually get to see that consistency. And then if you do have a bad race, then no, you have a bad race, but you also have time to recover. Whereas you get to the playoffs, one bad race, you're basically done for the whole. You're done.
Right.
Yeah. All I can do at this point is just reiterate what you guys have said. And in a full season format, you have a bad week and you can still make up with it with consistency over the next few, or consistency that you had before. You could even get away with 3 or 4 bad weeks. But with the current format we have, you can't have a bad week past September 1st. You really can't and expect yourself to win a championship, which is horrible, because we could see a guy like Kevin Harvick go out, win 9 races, have the championship basically locked up by Texas, and still not make it into the final race, just based on circumstance. It's not fair, but it's nothing that we don't already gripe about.
Yeah, I'll even add into the thing where today's racing, and even in all 3 series now, like a top 10 isn't really that important anymore, it seems like, because everyone's racing for wins, because that eliminates different strategies we used to see back in the day, because back then, like a top 5 was awesome, but you get a top 5 now, that's not good enough. You have to win. And we can go back to our episode with the Knoxville truck race. That's exactly what we were seeing with that situation, where you had guys trying to just send it into turn 1 because they have to win because of the winning in your in format, rather than just settle for like, oh, top 5, let's go, I just got a top 5. But now it's like, oh, top 5, can't have that, got to have a win.
Yeah, and I think that's where luck I think luck matters a lot more, like a shootout format like that, because like everybody in here has said, if you have bad luck happen in a race you have to win, it's a lot worse than having bad luck in a race where you need to finish 20th. And I don't like that the format's taking the strategy out of racing, because it's like you'd have guys that are like, hey, we don't have enough speed to win, so we're just going to try and finish 10th every week.
Mm-hmm.
Now everybody does the same thing, and it just becomes a giant circus, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just guys sending it.
I don't know if this will make much sense to anybody, but to me, it takes the reasoning behind going to different tracks out of the championship for me, because we had said earlier this year that the summer series tracks usually lent themselves to fuel mileage races, and you had this, that, and the other happen. And we said just had a whole episode like that. So for me, it takes out any reason to do good at certain tracks. Why do I need to do good at 550 tracks other than to bag those wins? It doesn't matter towards the championship. Yeah, the round of 8 has 2 of those to get into Phoenix, but if I can do good at Martinsville, who cares? If I can ride around 15th to maybe 7th range at those 2 tracks and I point my way in based on that, or I win and finish dead last at the other 2 by winning Martinsville, I'm into a race that's 750 horsepower. I don't need to worry about even developing my cars or anything like that. I think, to me, the way that we've shifted everything, you kind of saw it with the 10-race chase and Jimmy Johnson and Chad Canals showing up during the playoffs every year because they kind of were trying different things and making that middle area of the season just a little bit less worth it because they're not putting 100% towards those races. And that, to me, makes it not good for a season-long championship because you can't see guys who are strengthened at X racetracks do very well at those racetracks and do very badly at other racetracks still wind up in the same sort of regard as someone who has the opposite strengths. I don't know if that made any sense, but I tried to make
I know it does.
Okay, no, that kind of makes sense. That makes sense, actually. Like, my opinion, based off of what you were just saying, I'm thinking, like, you basically only have to be good for 3 races in the whole final 10 races just to give yourself a chance. You know what I mean? So if, let's say, someone in the playoffs wants to focus on Darlington, just put all your effort, all your marbles into Darlington, you win that, you can just cruise the rest of the way. Or the next Richmond, if you want to just put all your effort into, like, hey, I'm going to put all my effort, resources, notes into Richmond. If I win at Richmond, I don't have to worry about the other 2 races. Like, is that like kind of what you're thinking? I
think that makes sense to me too. Because sorry.
Yeah, and then also just scheduling as well. I mean, we've got 7 road courses on the schedule this year. What does that matter to a guy like Michael McDowell, who's really fucking good at road courses and can show that off in his final point standings when all of that is erased? I mean, obviously he won the Daytona 500, but all of that's erased with 10 races to go. So I don't know. It's
I don't like it. Like, I guess my way of putting it would be, what would you rather reward? Like, I don't want to reward a guy who can just win 1 race in a round off getting lucky over a guy who can finish 5th in every race. Like, to me, I think the guy who can finish well at every track is more impressive than the guy that just lucks into a win and gets in the Final 4 that way. Like, I don't think it's fair to the guys that can finish well every single week to kind of get second priority to a guy who can just win like 1 lucky race per round and just squeak their way through.
Okay, I'm just going to stop you guys there. Did y'all see that shit?
Yeah, Colton just disappeared.
Literally just disappeared.
I saw that.
Yeah, for you guys listening on audio, he didn't disappear as in his video disconnected. He literally was there in 1 frame, and the next frame he was gone. So I'm just staring at his, kitchen right now.
Did he just get like raptured or something, man?
I don't know. We missed the.
We got to clip that. Watch that live.
Oh no! He's back! Oh my god!
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I've been sitting here the whole time.
What the heck? No, you weren't, dude. You were not sitting there. You did some sort of witch. You did
for
some
those
sort
for you
of
guys
witchcraft.
and for those watching at home. I moved because my internet in my other room it's kind of iffy. And so now I'm trying to reset up out here. And so I'm like getting up and like moving a light and stuff real quick. And I can still hear you guys. And so I heard it cut back in. I was like, oh shit, what did I do? Yeah.
No, I think it's because your frame was lagging out.
We didn't see you step off and we didn't see you step back on. It was just like frame, there's Colton. Next frame, no Colton. And then the same thing happened in reverse just now.
You're gonna have to rewatch this.
He literally left at the exact same time his computer lagged. So it looked like he just disappeared.
He's frozen.
So
now.
if you guys are listening to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts, wherever you guys listen to the audio, you guys need to just watch the replay on Twitter and start in about 28 minutes
He's so
because he
gone.
just keeps disappearing and reappearing.
Hold on, let me get my phone out.
This is crazy.
He's gone. This is like extra special effects that we didn't pay for.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing on here.
Oh man, he got us off track with that. Oh, okay.
Well, actually, let me like kind of piggyback on what Nate was saying. So should I wait for Colton or just go for it?
I can hear you.
Oh, you're okay. You're still there.
Yeah.
All right. I kind of want to see if I can see you come back, or if you're just going to magically appear.
No, I'm good now. I plugged in the Ethernet cable. Justin lights.
I'm waiting.
Ah,
All
okay.
right. Okay.
My
Okay.
bad.
That was more normal.
That's good TV. Right?
He literally just teleported in the last.
Yeah, you definitely just teleported, dude. You did some witchcraft or some paranormal stuff was going on. But yeah, anyway, so to kind of piggyback off of what Nate was saying, do you guys remember that All-Star race? I don't remember if it was like early 2010s or something. They did that thing where if you won the segment, then you basically could just ride around in the back, and then at the final stage, you ran right back up front. I think that was like when Brad Keselowski was at the 2, so maybe that was like 2011 or 12, I'm thinking. But it's kind of... Yeah, they did like a weird format that one year there, because I remember like stage 1, 2, and 3. Then those guys would just ride in the back, and then all of a sudden for the final 10-lap shootout, those 3 guys were 1, 2, 3.
Oh man, I don't remember the year because I know some years they did like average finish in the segments, and it did like
Yeah,
So,
so
I can't
the
even
one he's
remember.
talking about, I think it's the 2011 one because I actually really liked it. Other than the fact of what he's talking about, so if you won the first, they called them heat races that year for whatever reason. They weren't really heats. You won the first heat, you started front row on pole. You won the second heat, you started outside pole. Third heat, you started inside row 2. Fourth heat, it didn't matter. You started right there. Everyone else that didn't finish first in one of those heat races lined up based on average finished across all 4 20-lap segments, and then they did a 10-lap shootout. So that's what that format was.
Yeah, that just kind of reminds me of like what Nate was saying there. So like those guys, all they had to do was just win one heat, one segment, one stage. That's kind of like how our playoff format is now. Michael McDowell won the 500. He didn't even need to do anything the rest of the year. He could have just started and parked basically and called it a day. That's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and it's just full season points makes every race matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you said, okay. Well, go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, think about it this way too. We now have stages and rewarding stage points. All right, what makes you think that the stages wouldn't be a little bit more interesting now? Let's say now that we have a full season format or whatever, because we don't have stage points in the last race. So you could come into the last race, you could still have 4 guys in a possible chance of even winning the championship just because there's 20 stage points on the line there. So that's
right.
That
opens it up. I hadn't even thought about that. That's 60 points right there at the end of the year that you could, if you were close enough, potentially get. And I know that you hear the argument of, oh, well, drivers will drive differently in certain situations. Well, exactly. That's what we want.
Yeah, we want to see strategy and stuff. Like what was Tyler Reddick at the Indy Road Course or whatever. He's choosing a different pit cycle because he wanted the stage points rather than the win. You could start seeing that in your playoff races or whatever if you had a full season point. Like, hey, maybe some guy in like 9th place in points or whatever just decides, hey, I'm going to win every single stage. Maybe not the race, maybe get a top 10, but if I win those stages, that's 20 points for me right there.
Right, and if people wanted to say, well, you would have people that wouldn't be going for the wins because I've got another fix for you. Just make the win worth more than 40 points. You put that at 65, 75 points, then you still keep the 35 points for second place. You're going to have the ability to go out there and annihilate people with wins or go out there and get stage points. And at certain tracks with different stage lengths, it is going to harm you to try and use your pit cycles to get those 20 points, while the bonus points for winning being, let's say, another 20 points. Let's say it's that would be what, 55 points to 35 points. You could earn those same 20 points by going for a win. That would change the strategy for each race because, like Jared said, depending on where you are in points, you're not going to be able to get all three if we make the strategy game work. So it would be more fun each week to watch.
Here. Oh, sorry, Nate. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's good. But I guess well, the thing with full season is, like you said, every race matters, and I think you would see less like championships dictated on like fluke stuff, and that's the big thing for me. Like the fluke stuff is better for entertainment, but I don't think it's good for like the purity. And
yeah,
I wouldn't want to see it just because I think it's kind of unfair to the guys who do good all year. And I don't care if all the 12-year-olds on Twitter they can find me, they can track me down. I don't really care.
Yeah.
So I'm at the point where I just no longer care about whether or not my driver wins it because it's just a complete circus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically, if you make the championship 4, you basically I feel like you just win the title.
Good.
So we have 4 titles every single year. So Kyle Busch is like a 6-time champion in my book. So
yeah.
Kidding on that, but I was basically just gonna like throw some this is kind of off topic, but since we were talking about stages, it'd be cool is, let's say you're doing that season-long point standings, you should make the 5 crown jewel races have double stage points in the middle of the race. Could you imagine that? So like, let's say like the Coke 600 or the Summer July Daytona race.
Imagine if somebody
Summer Daytona July race. That's what I was trying to say.
The what? That doesn't exist.
Yeah, it does exist. It's called the 400.
It needs to exist.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Gluck even made that mistake this weekend on Twitter. I know. I like that idea. I think that you could easily make, let's say a sixth of the schedule is 36 races. You could make those double points. You book in the season with double points races at Daytona and Homestead, where it should be, not fucking Phoenix. And then Bristol night race, move it away from the Southern 500, so you don't have 2 back-to-back. Your Southern 500, one of your Degas, if you're not going to do the Brickyard 400, if you are going to do your Brickyard 400, do the Brickyard 400. And, of course, the Coke 600.
Imagine like the points haul it would take if somebody were to win every if someone were to win every stage in the 600 and win the race with double points. Like, imagine the points haul you could pull off of that.
It would make more of a crown jewel is what it comes down to. Because I know they say it is, but I feel like it's just not as hyped up anymore as like it used to be, Like,
I think it's because of the 4th stage, honestly. I think the 4th stage ruining the strategy of that race is why it's not so high.
It's just 4 100 lap stints. There's no variation because you're going to get the same thing every single time. Just repeat it 3 more times.
Everyone's basically on the same cycle.
Colton, I want to go ahead and ask you your final thoughts on this topic because we're about to go down a road later on in the show that deals with some of this stuff. So I'll save the juicy stuff for later.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're going down a good rabbit hole. Just the last thing I want to point out is I think a lot of the reason, and I heard it when they changed the points format and they changed the kind of playoff structure right around the early 2010s, is NASCAR wanted to get away with drivers saying, we had a good points day today. But I think that's what a lot of us fans want nowadays. I miss points racing, to be honest with you, knowing exactly where you had to finish. I look back at the 92 Hooters 500, one of the greatest races ever. That was a points race. That wasn't, let me try to win this race. That was Alan Kwiecki trying to stay out one more lap than Bill Elliott to lead an extra lap. And knowing the points, I feel like, we've said strategy a million times on here. But that's a huge part of what made NASCAR so popular in the first place, was seeing all these strategies play out. And it gives something for the broadcasters to talk about too. They're not just sitting there calling the racing on the track. They're saying, okay, well, watch this driver because he just pitted to get off cycle here to throw these guys off. If there's a caution, this guy's going to be in a good spot. I miss points racing, and I wish we'd kind of get back to that. Wins are awesome. Wins are cool. Wins are needed. I think we need to reward them more. Not necessarily with a win and you're in format, but
extra points. If you want winning to matter more, make it matter more. It's very, very simple. They tried to do that, and I don't know how they come up with such convoluted ways to do that when all you have to do is add more points. Let's look at the Latford system, for example. it was 170 points to win, I believe, and then you got 5 for leading a lap, so you automatically got 175 points, and then 5 if you led both laps. That's 180 points. Well, if you go back to the Lapford system and say, all right, well, you automatically get 200 points for winning plus the lead lap and the lead lap bonus, you could have up to 210, but the next guy doesn't lead a lap, he's only got 165 points, so you've already got a 35 point spread on it. That's all we have to do. Just make it matter more, because now it matters so much that it doesn't really matter anymore.
It's like we had the perfect system and then changed it.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that with all these things about how much the wins need to matter and how much they like. I'll save that for the fun part of our show later about Phoenix. I think the big reason why Phoenix is in the finale is because of the whole wins should matter mentality. Like, there's a reason why they hype up the guys going 8 wide on the front stretch for the restarts, because I'm sure they want a championship to get decided that way.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to Sunday. We kind of went on a side there that we were going to save for a little bit later, but Cup race was not on Sunday. That was a misspoken thing by me. It was definitely a night race. So we do those things on Saturdays in the Cup Series, except for this Sunday and at the Coke 600. So as I try to save this from going straight off the rails, we are going to talk about the fact that they made the cars slower. The slower cars made tighter packs. I thought it was going to be a boring-ass train race. I will be the first to admit when I'm wrong. It sucks, but I was wrong. It was not a boring-ass train race. I'll go ahead and let you guys tell me how you thought the racing itself was, and then we'll move on from there.
I was excited. Sorry.
Oh, my bad. You go, Nate.
Oh,
no,
okay.
you go first. You were at the racetrack.
I guess I would say that it's one of the best Coke 0400s I've been to. Like, maybe the best. The only gripe I have is I wish that they didn't crash on the backstretch, because I feel like the finish would have been crazy with the run that Suarez had. And I think there would have been sort of like a who even wins. Maybe Kurt Busch could have won. Maybe Suarez and Blaney crash and turn forward and Kurt Busch wins, or maybe the guy in 5th wins. You don't know.
Corey the package.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was crazy. I think the best part about the race is that there wasn't as much riding as there normally is. Like, there were a lot of lead changes, more than normal at that race. And I think the race itself was very good. It wasn't just the finish. And I think it was probably the best overall race from lap 1 to 160 out of the Coke 0400s that I've been to.
I think I saw a stat. Wasn't that the most lead changes in the Gen 6 era at a restrictor plate? I'm pretty sure.
I say so, yeah.
I think I saw a stat with that.
It was pretty cool. Like, I had a lot of fun being there. A couple people that I know that I met up with, it was their first time in Daytona, so they actually. I was hoping, like, man, please don't let this race be a train race, because I want them to be able to experience what Daytona is like actually about, and they ended up getting better than what they expected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good race. Like Nate said, there was a lot of lead changes. There was a lot of different names up front, comers and goers. I'm like, Corey LaJoie might win. Suarez might win. I was just hoping for chaos, for like one of those guys, like someone back, like Corey LaJoie, like that last restart. I'm like, man, imagine Corey LaJoie wins the race.
He was in the perfect place too, and that's what makes me mad. Is that, I mean, I can't complain with the money I won on DraftKings, because I kind of just threw stuff at the wall. I'm like, all right, I'm betting $1. Got $60 off of it, but if LaJoie had finished second or even won the race, I probably would have got like $600 off dollar bet. It's like I kept thinking he was gonna either win or finish second because of where he was at. Blaney was really far out there. He was gonna get run down. LaJoie had a huge run. It's just that he got shuffled out of line when he had that run. That was kind of it for him. So. Either way, it was kind of cool. It was super unpredictable.
Mm-hmm. Heck, even Bubba Wallace was like, did you see it? How about him avoiding that wreck at the end?
That was nuts. I don't know how the broadcast didn't see it.
Like, I didn't even see it until I saw like the replay from his onboard. I'm like, holy crap! Like, he literally just sent it and didn't even do anything, and it just like perfect. Like, he's been in a lot of those situations, like the Logano flip earlier at Talladega, that wreck at Daytona. He's gotten some pretty good onboard shots this year so far. But another thing I did want to point out, did you notice that wreck with Suarez or whatever? It kind of looked like the 2006 Talladega race, the Vickers wreck, where he kind of pulled down a little bit too early, kind of hooked them all together, and that basically what caused that. That's exactly like how I thought.
That was super unfortunate too, because I think that Kurt even said he was trying to help him the whole way through, because they were like 6th or 7th starting the last lap, and they kind of had a build. They were building up this really, really big run, and I thought for sure that he was going to be able to push Suarez all the way up to Blaney, but
I think he could have. They had that run going with them.
Yeah, I think it would have been kind of interesting to see which of the 3 guys would have won out of them. It's just, I don't think he meant to do it. It was just kind of bad timing.
I think this race was good based on the package and the circumstance. I don't think we see a race that's good for the Daytona 500 just because it's so early in the year. Guys want to win the Daytona 500, so they're not going to race super outlandish the whole race. Whereas this is the winner get in for, I think they said like 14 drivers or something like that, if not way more than that. So I think that's a lot of the reason why we saw the chaos that we did. I do think we see it at Talladega here next month. I think it's going to be super exciting there just because you're going to have guys that just want to prove that they can win, and it's their kind of last chance to do so. I thought that wreck at the very end was perfectly timed. I have no gripe about it whatsoever.
Fair.
Hell yeah, my guy won twice in a row. That's never happened before. That's pretty cool.
Of course you would like that. I mean, like I said last week, it's a Blaney win. I'm not going to complain. I like the guy. But like Nathan said, man, if that shit did not happen on the back straightaway, we could have seen something even crazier. I mean, could you have imagined a Daniel Suarez win?
I honestly
could you have imagined a Corey LaJoie win? I mean, it was a pretty good race. That was actually one of my questions that I was going to ask you guys. Is did you guys think that this was a good race because of the package changes or because of the implications? And I think Colton pretty much said it. I don't know if you other two agree with him, but I agree wholeheartedly that it wouldn't happen.
I think
it wasn't a cutoff.
Right?
I think it's definitely implications. Like
because you could ride around in any package. It's just that when these guys decide they want to race, the package definitely allows them to do so a lot better than the old one did. So I don't think that the racing early on was a result of the package. It was a result of guys realizing, hey, this is something that I have to do. I have to put myself in a position right now. I can't wait, There were guys that all had different strategies. Like some guys wanted to be up front, some didn't, and they all kind of just mashed together.
Yeah, if this race is in July, I don't think we see as good of a race as we saw this past weekend.
So you'll agree with me that it's good being here and that's okay that we moved it from the traditional date?
I don't know about that far because I feel like the July races has always been chaotic. Like it's always been chaotic, even in the July spot. It's just the chaos is for a different reason now. Like now it's like now you know a reason behind the chaos, whereas back then it was sort of just like, hey,
I want to win.
I want to get that chase wild card spot.
I'd rather
it's always chaotic, but now there's like a prize for
Talladega get moved to this spot. Keep
my.
Daytona where it's
Hell no. As someone who goes to Talladega, it's already too hot half the time in October.
Put lights on.
That. You don't live in this Alabama sweaty, humid-ass heat.
It used to be in July.
No, I know that, and I'm glad they moved it to October because we'll talk to my dad before the Talladega race because he's got some stories he wants to share, specifically about July races.
Y'all need to build lights.
There's no way in hell that I would go to a Talladega race in the August heat.
No, I will need to build lights. I will give the package credit. The fact that we didn't have a huge wreck before the tail end of the race really helped out the whole finish.
I thought for sure.
It has to do with the package and the closing rates and the fact that they did create a little bit of a bubble with the cars, and it wasn't so much just a free-for-all. So I will give the package that credit. And I think, like I said, I think Talladega next month is going to be super interesting. But, yeah, I'll put this more on the circumstance.
I think they found the mixture. Like you can still get a big run when you want to. Like, we've saw it many times, but now it's more like, I guess like you said, it's not neutered, but it's kind of toned down a little bit to where it's like this guy's not going to be coming at you 15 miles an hour faster, but he might be coming at you 10 miles an hour faster.
Right.
I like that some of the guys were able to hook up for like not as much as like we still used to see the 2-car tandem, but you did notice on some of the restarts you'd see them try to
It
hook
happened
up.
at the front between, I think, guys like Chastain and others.
Mhm.
I don't remember who it was that they got out to like a 4 or 5 car length lead in turn 3, and then they kind of just separated.
I was
don't
kind
remember
of,
who it was, but
I was like fingers crossed, hoping like, oh, maybe we could sort of see something close to 2-car tandems, but that I know that's never gonna even be a
I
possibility.
kind of like the combo though. Like you can do a little bit of both.
I did enjoy the fact that we did have tandem racing, but it was still pack racing because being a tandem fanatic like I am, I know that I'm in the minority, so I respect that I still got to see a little bit of what I used to love in the 2010 through 2012 seasons, but the majority still got to see what they wanted. My final thoughts was the package was fantastic, and they're going to get over engineered before we get to the Daytona 500. And then I was like, oh shit, we're going blind because we're going to the next gen car next year. So we'll get into some next gen stuff in a little bit. But before we do, it was the season finale for the Cup cars, and it was supposed to be a race with a lot of playoff implications, but it wound up not having those implications. So what we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to look at drivers finishing 25th to 17th in the point standings. We're going to grade their season and say what they could have done better to get into the playoffs. So we'll go ahead and start with the 25th driver of Daniel Suarez. I don't know who wants to take the lead on this, but I guess I'll start off and say the 99 team overachieved my expectations for Trackhouse Racing. The only thing that I think is going to happen to get him into the playoffs is him being more consistent on those short tracks and those super speedways, because he will eventually get a win on one of those tracks.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I mean, I think like he started off pretty good. Like, you saw him at Bristol Dirt competing for a win, but I think like the last couple weeks it seems like he just hasn't been like as much of a factor as he was early in the season. So that really comes down to the consistency that you're bringing up. But overall, like that team has been overachieving. I thought this year. I didn't think that they were going to do as good as they were doing this year. But so I give them credit, and he wins Bristol Dirt or something, like he's in the playoffs. So.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with his sentiments. They overachieved, and obviously some bad luck at the end, but I don't think they have anything to be ashamed of for a first year.
Yeah, I mean, he blew me out of the water. I mean, brand new team. We keep saying that new teams don't perform for a few years, and I mean, he proved that wrong. I mean, they were a couple feet from getting a playoff spot this year, and a little more consistency from just, I mean, damn near clinching one of them 16 spots.
Yeah, and I don't know that I would put this on the Trackhouse Racing team itself. It seems like Justin Marks has put together a really good team, a really consistent team. The guy on top of the pit box is doing his job well, taking risk when needed. It's all up to Daniel Suarez next year, especially when he's going to have a new teammate, to be that guy to get Trackhouse their first win by being more consistent, like I said. But 24th, we move up to the 43 car of Eric Jones. And Eric, this was his first time not in top-tier equipment. For me, I think he did pretty good, but I was kind of underwhelmed with the 43 car's performance this year. I'm not sure what they have to build on next year. Honestly, it just kind of seemed like he was one of those cars out there. Maybe the team itself could be the problem here.
I think it's just the team itself, because Nate also put out a tweet on Eric Jones' stats at Darlington. It's this, you look back at his, I did the same thing with Watkins Glen, where he had like all top 10s or whatever there, but I think his equipment's just holding him back is basically what it comes down to. Like there's really like nothing else to say about that. It's just Eric Jones is like a super underrated driver, and if he's even if he's in like an SHR car or something, like he's definitely going to get you top 10s, top 5s, maybe even a couple wins, because like it's not easy to win at Darlington, and he won at Darlington. So he's a good race car driver. He's just being held back by that 43 equipment. It sucks that he's going to be going back there next year, and like I don't know how else they can really like improve from where they're at, but it is what it is basically, and it just sucks for Eric Jones because, like I said, I think he's a really good, underrated race car driver that could probably compete for a championship if he stayed in top tier equipment.
Yeah, I think so too. Darlington, like Jared said, is definitely a driver's track. Obviously, the Gibbs cars are very good, but you don't do that well at Darlington as a fluke. I mean, he finished 5th as a rookie there, which is not like a common thing. And he's won there before. He's had nothing but good runs. And, I don't think it's a coincidence that the one, like, outside the top 15 finish came with the worst car. So I think if they can somehow bring him a car that's capable of a top 10 or just even competing for a top 10, then I think he could probably get one. And that's why I don't think that this year is anything for Jones to be ashamed of, but more of just the team kind of missed something. Petty's kind of taking steps back, and I think that if you give him a little bit better equipment, then he'd probably compete for top 15s.
Yeah, I mean, he's the perfect example of you have to give drivers a time to mature when they get into the Cup Series, especially at his age. I mean, he's not very old at all, even to this day, and he's still got 2 wins with Gibbs. Super young. He actually got a win way sooner in his career than Chase Elliott did. So, I mean, we could be having this conversation about Chase Elliott had Chase Elliott gone with Gibbs instead of Hendrick, about, is Chase Elliott good because he races for, say, front row. I think Eric Jones is a phenomenal driver, and I actually think he outperformed that 43 equipment this year. So I'm really impressed with Jones and not very impressed with RPM.
Yeah, just to kind of echo what you guys have said, I think Eric Jones is an elite driver. I think he is a class alongside his former teammates of Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch. Maybe not to the tier of a Gordon or a Johnson, but in the right equipment, he could be someone with 30 to 50 wins in the Cup Series.
There's a reason Kyle Busch picked him whenever he beat him in the Snowball Derby or whatever. And then you saw him, he worked his way through the trucks, won the truck championship. He was winning Xfinity races. He won Cup races. And I think it just shows also how, Hendrick kind of gave all the guys that they have now chances to like grow and develop. Like he gave Bowman a chance, gave him years to grow. William Byron, the same thing. Chase Elliott, the same thing. If he was at Gibbs, he'd be tossed out of there because, you saw Daniel Suarez was there for 3 years, and Eric Jones was there 3 to 4 years. They Joey Logano even too. He's not winning. Let's boot him out of here. It's like Gibbs just doesn't have that patience with those up and comers.
Yeah, and I will defend Gibbs a little bit and say that not every team has to be patient. Some teams want to win right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the thing with Chase Elliott, I think it's a different case because Chase Elliott was contending for wins every week, even when he didn't win. And you probably couldn't say the same about, William Byron in his early years or Jones at Gibbs. They would be contending sometimes, but sometimes they wouldn't. So I think it was kind of just unfortunate. His development did not match what Gibbs wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like kind of wrong, right place, but wrong time. If you put him in a Gibbs car 5 years from now, then sure, I think it'd be a good thing. But I think he was just there too soon. Maybe they should have given him a couple more years in an Alliance car or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on from one driver that got done dirty, honestly, by the NASCAR system, let's look at one that was also not really groomed, but now has a Cup Series ride. That is Chase Briscoe in his rookie year, coming in 23rd in regular season point standings. For me, this is a guy that we thought was going to be good on road courses. He wasn't very prominent on road courses until this last one. I think that the SHR building has been a disservice to Chase Briscoe. And this is a guy that went from running 10 or 12 sprint car races to jumping in an Xfinity car. The dude has absolutely blistering raw speed, and he is a guy that should be able to perform. But I think he's right where he should be for his rookie year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, not having practice and qualifying for most of these races definitely does not help, and you see that. You even saw that last year with some of the young guys with Bell, Reddick, and Custer. They didn't really get on their feet until later in the season, and that's kind of Briscoe now. So I'm expecting so yeah, you're right. He is kind of on par for what we would kind of expect. Plus, with how bad SHR has been all season, it's not really surprising where he's at. But let's say next year, whenever hopefully they have practice and qualifying back, and with the next gen car, I could possibly being like a playoff contender.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. And he did good on the road courses, like a top 5 at Road America, or top 10, or top 10 at Watkins Glen, top 10 at the Indy road course. That would have been a top 10 if it wasn't for the whole circus at the end. But I just think that he kind of came in at a bad time because, he needed to improve as a driver. The team needs to improve. There's no practice and qualifying for him to improve. It's like he basically just got thrown in, and he did good at the places he was familiar with.
Yeah, I think with practice qualifying this year and SHR having a little bit better cars, I mean, even that's kind of a half variable for me in this opinion. I think he is one of 2 SHR drivers at the win this year. I currently think he's the second best driver in that stable. And like you all said, the no practice has really hurt him moving into this Cup car. He has no idea how to drive it, especially for that first half of the season. We kind of didn't see him at all. And then once he started figuring out, he was up front. And he was up front at places that I didn't expect him to be at and running good. Like we saw him run pretty good at Michigan. We saw him have a really good run at Daytona for a little while too. I really only expected him to be good at the road courses. So I feel like if he had the luxury of practice and qualifying, he'd definitely be up there with everybody. And I think he's even ahead of Eric Almirola in that Stewart-Haas stable. I think he's a championship contender here in the next 2-3 years.
Yeah, the good thing about all these rookies coming up now is we are probably going to have practice next year with the next gen release. But also, everyone's going to be on a level playing field because they're all going into a brand new car that has just a ton of new and different characteristics to anything that this Cup Series has been in the past however long. So I think that's going to be good for Chase Briscoe and guys like Harrison Burton and Austin Cindric who are coming up into the Cup Series. Next up, we have the 22nd place in the regular season standings, and that is the number 42 of Ross Chastain, who will become the number 1 at Trackhouse next year. As far as I'm concerned, dude outperformed anything that I thought he was going to, especially over the last few months. And so I don't know that I have any criticisms for him from this season or going into next. The only thing that he has to do next year is stay on the same path and hope that Daniel Suarez doesn't beat him to victory lane.
He's had speed this year. Like, I'll even go back to the Pocono races that I went to. He honestly could have won both of those races if it's different. Like, he definitely had like a top 5 car out of both those races there, and I just saw like he just had just that raw speed like those 2 races, and he was competing there, but just got caught up in some incidents there that kind of took that away. But even like the last couple months, he's definitely like shown that he has speed to run up there. Like I honestly thought he could have won Daytona too, because he had that. He every time I looked, he was like always in the top 10, and I think I think he might get a win. I don't know if he will get a win, but I think he's definitely going to push hard to get a win. Yeah, I know he's not in the playoffs, but I think he's going to be one of those non-playoff drivers that's not going to care about not being in the playoffs, where I think he's just going to send it and try to win regardless of what happens. Only because I think he wants to get Chip a win before the team ceases to exist, and I think I think he feels like he probably owes them for giving him a chance in the Cup Series. So I could see him really pushing hard these last 10 races.
Yeah, I think, like he said, the Ganassi team as a whole had a really good summer, especially on the 750 tracks. Like, they really showed up at the 750 tracks. And Chastain in particular was one of those guys. Like, he ran really good at Nashville. He's run really good at these strange racetracks. And in general, Ganassi had a good summer at every type of track. And I think that as time went on, he got better and better and better. And now he's kind of at Kurt's level for the most part. So I think that he doesn't have anything to be ashamed of. Like, he's done really well. And I think that next year he's probably going to improve, because this is really his first year in a competitive Cup car, if we're being honest.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, of the drivers that you listed so far, Chastain has definitely impressed me the most, just because I thought he was going to be quite a bit more reckless and not really fight as hard as he has for the positions that he has so far. He was really, really impressing me, especially that back half of the season when Ganassi turned it on. For you guys watching, I'm going to try to get your guys' opinion on some of these. So if you want to answer, what do you think about Chastain this season? I'll try to be live on my phone and kind of banter a little bit, and we'll get you some comments on the screen as well.
Yeah, and we'll do that with the next couple of drivers as well as some of the stuff that we're going to get to in the latter part of today's episode. But moving on to the next driver, and that is the 21st place finisher at the new team, 2311 Racing. And Bubba Wallace, I mean, I think they underestimated how hard it is to be a startup in the Cup Series. Yes, they are essentially Levine Family Racing. But, I mean, how much did they outperform that car compared to last year? Not much. Underwhelming just based on the fact that you told me you'd have 2 wins this year. But you outperformed what I thought this team was going to do. A lot of people thought this team was going to be another Furniture Row Racing. I definitely didn't think that. This is a finish right where they should have been in points as far as getting a win. That was a big understatement from them because they just didn't do it. And that's the thing that they got to go out and do next year. If Bubba doesn't get a win next year, I might just have to call this a failure for putting him in that car.
Yeah, I'd have to agree because what do they have? 2 top 5s this year. I know they had one. I know they had one in Pocono, and then just recently this weekend. So, yeah, they're kind of where we all kind of probably project them to be for a startup team. So he's right around where Suarez is, or both in that 20s, mid-20s range. So that's kind of typical. And if you're not a winning driver at a brand new startup team, that's going to happen. It's part of growing pains. You're not going to see. I wasn't going to expect to see him go out there and win a couple races with the startup team. Now, if you had a guy let's say the 2311 starting up brand new next year with just Kurt Busch, then yeah, maybe we might have some more expectations. But you have a brand new team with a driver that hasn't won. That's when you can't really expect him to be a competitive top tier team right off the bat.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fair. You don't want to expect too much out of them in year one, but then at the same time, you do want to do well. And I think there's been times where they had decent cars like Phoenix, but they didn't capitalize on it with crazy strategies and all that. So I think it's a case of I think everyone needs to improve. I think Bubba needs to improve. I think the team needs to improve, and it all needs to happen at the same time because it almost looks like they have all the tools, or they're about to have all the tools they need to win. But there seem to be it's a puzzle pieces that just aren't there yet. And maybe next year with Kurt Busch being there, that might be the last piece of the puzzle the team needs, but we don't really know exactly what's going on over there.
Kurt Busch is going to be the savior.
Yeah.
He always does that with teams, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Kurt will do next year with these guys. As far as their expectations going in, this is about where I expected them to be. Even though they said they were trying to get 2 wins this year, I kind of took that with a grain of salt. After the first 2 weeks, I definitely thought it was possible for them to get at least 1 win. And then we kind of saw the wheels fall off for about 10, 12, 14 weeks there. I think this shows 2 things. That one, Daniel Suarez's situation with Trackhouse is pretty hit or miss and kind of hard to do for a startup team. And then also how much Gibbs hates any Toyota that isn't a Joe Gibbs car. They are, and we've seen it several times that Gibbs is absolutely reluctant to work with that 23 car, even though they're out of the same stable. I mean, it's basically JGR5 right there. But a little bit more help from Gibbs, and I think he could definitely at least get a couple more top 5s, even though with just data sharing or something like that. If Toyota would look past just Joe Gibbs as their team of choice, Toyota could definitely. I don't see any reason they couldn't win 20 races a season.
Yeah, and that's going to be something interesting to watch next year as Golden Boy has his little brother to compete with under essentially, like you said, the same roof. Big brother Kurt comes in, is going to try and steal some of your thunder, no doubt, because he is a fan favorite now that he's redeemed himself. Also, you've got Bubba Wallace, who is a massive controversy. Either you love him to death or you hate him for whatever reason. And so, it's a polarizing crew that's going to be over there, but that's good for Toyota Press. I hope they do work together. Next up on the docket, 20th. This is the last 4 spots that didn't get in. These are kind of drivers that we would expect to be in the fight every year to be in the playoffs. And I don't know, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He didn't wreck as much this year, so he outperformed everything that I could say about him. As far as next year, JTG Doherty is going to be a single car team, so maybe he gets better race cars, or maybe they surprise us and go with Ryan Preece. I don't know. I'm gonna leave this one up to you guys.
I can't see Ricky being kicked out. I think he's their guy, because obviously if Preece was the unchartered guy, I think that was already, the writing was on the wall, like, hey, you're going to be the odd guy out if it's money can't buy us a second charter. But I think just with Ricky staying out of trouble like this year, because like you said, I don't think I really saw him wreck as much or wreck people as much. I think he kind of kept his car clean a lot this year, and he's just basically trying to finish races, and he got his average like in the 20th range, so that's pretty much expected. So
yeah, I think that honestly, you have to understand those things. It's unfortunate with Priest and all that. I don't like that is happening, but it's just there's not much they can do about it if they don't have the money to keep that car open. But in terms of Stenhouse, I think he's been okay this year. Like, he's had a couple of really, really good runs. Say, like, in particular, Nashville and Bristol Dirt are ones that kind of stick out. But they were solid. They did everything they had to do. They weren't super bad, but they weren't super great either. So I think that's kind of right where I expected somebody with his level of experience to be. So I would expect if they stay together, then maybe slight improvement, but you just can't tell with the next car.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a lot less reckless this year. I think that Jack Roush coming out right after he announced that Ricky would no longer be piloting the 17, coming out and saying that I'm looking forward to not having as many wrecked race cars to fix, I think that kind of pissed him off and kind of drove him in the right direction. But I mean, we've seen it. He went from wrecking on the first lap at Darlington last year to now consistently finishing the races, albeit 20th, 25th most weeks. He's still finishing the races. He's still gathering those points. He's not pissing his competitors off as much. And I think that goes a long way, and it will go a long way in the future as well.
I think it'll help next year whenever it's a one-car team, and then they can put all the resources and focus on him, rather than whenever he was over at Roush and they have 2-3 cars while he was there. So I think having all the resources, all the marbles put on that 47 car or 37 or whatever car they decide to run with him, I think that'll be a lot better for him. And this year showed that, hey, I can keep my car clean. Maybe we'll start putting, like I said, resources, and maybe we'll start looking at top 15s, top 10s.
Yeah, and you guys bring up Roush Racing, and the car that he exited finished ahead of him this year in points with a 19th points position in the regular season championship. Of course, all these guys are still battling it out for 17th on back over the next 10 races. So not necessarily their finishing position. But Chris Buescher, you did what you had to do, bud. You are, I guess, in my opinion, a driver that just takes home a race car cleanly pretty much every week. You don't get yourself into too much trouble. You are the guy that I want on my team as a second driver. Ryan Newman, sadly, is not going to be your teammate, but Brad Keselowski coming in and turning this whole program around is the reason that I think you're probably going to be in the playoffs next year. As far as these other guys go, I don't know what their opinions are, but you got a good one coming for you.
Chris Buescher did pretty good for the Roush team that is this year. Pretty good. But the other thing we got to look at, too, is he's done well enough to get sponsors back, because I think Fastenal signed like a 3-year – was it a 3-year or 4-year extension? Mm-hmm. And then Fifth Third Bank also, I remember, I just heard, also signed the extension. So he's he's basically locked in that ride for a couple more years. And I think with Brad Kay coming over, I think that's just going to help him out tremendously, because I think Chris Buescher is another like underrated driver. I think if you get him the right tools and stuff, he's gonna compete a little bit. Like won an Xfinity championship, so he knows what to do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I like him a lot. I think he's perfect example of like a guy that doesn't really make too many splashes, but he still does good. Like I remember he ran really well at Homestead. I think Atlanta was another race where he ran really good, like the first Atlanta race. So I would expect good things from him next year if the team can improve, because I think he's a case of, if you give the guy a good car, he's probably going to get top tens every week, in and out, in and out, in and out. Like he might not win a bunch, but man, he'd be the guy if you want consistency.
Chris Buescher was the where did he come from guy for me this year, especially towards the Daytona race. He really lit a fire under his ass, was doing really good towards the end. I think Brad Kay next year is going to be the deciding factor of whether or not the equipment is that bad or the drivers have been that bad. Obviously, we saw it a little bit with Matt Kenseth last season. And I think Buescher is still he's on the upswing. I'm interested to see what Brad Kay does in those cars next year to really decide whether or not Buescher is that long-term guy for Roush.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly if what you're saying I agree with. I don't think it's an equipment thing that let me rephrase that. I don't think it's a driver thing. I think it's definitely an equipment thing. As our Sonoa Flagman says, that's my dad, Chad Harrington. You've known him from the podcast before. He says, Chris Buescher outperforms his equipment, but he doesn't use his stuff up. This was one of the gripes that like Colton said, was had for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I mean, the truth comes in the name. I mean,
yeah.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Yeah, Stenhouse.
Ricky Stenhouse. Yeah. So this is something that looks good on paper, and I can't wait to see what happens with him. Having the leadership that comes with a Brad Keselowski, love him or hate him, the dude is definitely a good leader and can potentially turn around that program that's been on the decline for quite some time now. Moving on is the fan favorite 18th place driver, and that is Matt DiBenedetto. I'm going to start off, and I'm going to go ahead and piss some people off. I love Matt DiBenedetto. I at one point said that he was my best friend jokingly because we spent 15 minutes at pre-race jabbing it up at Atlanta when he was in the 83 car. Great dude, but it's past time. What the hell are you going to show me? You have no wins in the 3 National Series. You're not going to be competing for a Cup playoff spot next year because you're not going to be in the Cup Series. So you know what you need to do? You need to go down to Trucks or go down to Xfinity and go win a championship, because otherwise I'm not going to be impressed by you, and I don't think you're coming back to the Cup Series.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically that. I mean, I love Matt D. Like I love that he's trying, but it's just, I don't know. I think that video that that's what that comment. But I think that video that he put out about like getting upset about not like getting kicked out of a ride or whatever, I'm like, that, I don't know, that kind of like changed my mind on him a little bit, just because like, dude, you haven't won in any series, and you already knew last year you weren't going to be back in the 21 car, and then kind of like just threw the team under the bus, and like kind of just didn't sit well with me. But basically, like, yeah, if you haven't won in a series and you're complaining about not having a ride, like, well, you need to have wins. You need to back that up. You know, that's kind of like with Austin Dillon last year. Like, I'm starting to like Austin Dillon a lot more. I know we're going to get to him here soon, but like last year, whenever he won at Texas, and you know, he kind of called the fans out. It's like that was like a silver spoon win or something like that, whatever comment he made, and then he ended up going and backing it up after that. Like, that's something where maybe if Matt D would have released that video, then maybe backed that up and maybe won a race or something, then I'd be like, all right, this dude knows what's up, but he just hasn't gotten there. And I don't know if it's the car or the driver, but I think you kind of have to look at it as the driver now, just because he hasn't won in any of the 3 series. Ryan Blaney won in the 21 car. Heck, Trevor Bayne even won in the 21 car. So,
grain of salt.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that he's not a bad driver. I really don't think he's a bad driver, but I don't think he's like a world beater either. So I don't want to say like he's, if you expect the guy to win multiple races a year, you're probably looking for the wrong guy. But If you want a guy that can finish top 15 in points, then he might be your guy. So I would say that the crew chief change later in the year definitely helped him a lot. But at the same time, I don't think that he was ever going to be the guy that people hyped up to say, this guy's going to win a whole bunch of races and this guy's going to do all this and all that. But, I don't think there's any shame in being a solid driver. Not every driver is going to be great. And I think he's like you guys said, he's a perfect example of somebody who could drop down, win a little bit in the lower series, come back up and still have a solid career. He might not, be a cup champion material, if you will.
Yeah, I agree. I've said it on here before that not every driver needs to be the superstar. You can still make a really good living and a really good reputation being a supporting actor. And I think that's what Matt D needs. Go down into the lower series, pull a Nemechek, get some momentum rolling. Just like your dad said in the comments, drop series and go win. Winning is good for the soul anywhere. I don't care if he's winning in late models, he needs to do something else. He's one of my favorite guys too, but really we've seen him those last couple of years kind of coasting off a second place finish at Bristol. We haven't really seen him perform out much past that. Granted, he almost won a Talladega race. He's been close here and there, but he's a glorified Michael McDowell at this point.
Yeah, for me, I think he was a perfect replacement for Paul Menard. He's just like Paul Menard. He's going to bring your equipment home. He's going to be slightly aggressive on a whim, maybe. And sometimes he's going to be a nuisance to some drivers, honestly. I don't know. He's kind of like to me, you had your chance. You blew it. Stop complaining about it. Go do something and then come back to me. And that's where I'm at with the 21 driver. No more. I mean, Harrison Burton's got wins. He's probably going to get himself a championship this year if all things go right. I mean, the kid's coming up that's going to be taking your ride deserves it way more than you.
There was a great comment by your dad just now. He was this generation's Michael Waltrip. And I really think Matt D is this generation's Michael Waltrip. Like, he'll win one day, but you just got to give him time and equipment and all the factors in the right spot.
But this day and age, you don't get that time. You don't get 200 something races before you win.
It's a good comparison because, Michael, obviously super speedways were his thing, and he had a couple of really good tracks that weren't super speedways, like the Benedetto at Bristol or whatever. I agree with the comparison. I just don't know if he's going to be able to do so in a backmarker car.
Right. It doesn't work in this day and age, and that's
money talks now. Money talks.
All right. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start. I'm going to apologize to Rattlesnake, to Silver Spoon Nation. 17th in points, Austin Dillon. He is our final driver of the night. I was wrong. This guy has every right to be in a Cup Series car. He drove the absolute hell out of the race car this year. A one dumb move at Michigan cost him a chance to win that race and potentially be in a playoffs. Could have done it based on points even if he didn't win that day and had a second or third place finish. But to plug our website, fanfuelmotorsports.com, which we'll be launching on Friday, I'm doing a championship called Best of the Rest, where I look at the points based on anyone who's not in the top 4 cars of each manufacturer. And Austin Dillon has 100-something point lead over the rest of the field. So if you take out all the A-class drivers, all the elite guys, he is miles ahead of his teammate Tyler Reddick. And then going farther down, just outdoes the rest of the midfield pack. So I do want to apologize. All he has to do next year is get a little bit more luck in the last couple of races.
Yeah, I agree. He was like, I think he honestly could have won Michigan because he had a fast car of the day. I think he had some motivation there. I think he knew, like, hey, I might be out of the playoffs if I don't win this. And I think that was like one of those things where, like, hey, I'm going to throw all my marbles out of this one because he probably knew Daytona could be a crapshoot. So I think, like, Michigan was kind of that last chance. So they brought the best possible car for him and saw that he was running up there and unfortunately got taken out there at the end of stage 2. But even if he didn't wreck there, he'd still have solid points day, and we could have eventually seen a whole different outcome come Daytona.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I don't think Austin Dillon's at all a bad driver. I think RCR is a really good team, and it was kind of unfortunate to where it was like a one guy's got to go situation in regards to the playoffs. I think next year, if they improve a lot, I think it's easy enough for both drivers to be able to make it in. So they're so evenly matched. I think that they'd be a great pairing, and I think that like he said too, we were wrong about Austin Dillon. Like I remember him as a rookie and thinking, this guy's not going to cut it, but now he's perfectly fine. I don't put winning a race out of reach for him next year. So I'd like to see more out of him. I just don't know because he's almost always on that bubble. Like he's always there. So, I don't think there's anything bad I can say about him as a driver.
I am going the opposite of you guys. I'm going to say that Tyler Reddick proved me kind of right about Austin Dillon. Sorry, Tyler Reddick's in his second full-time Cup year, and he made the playoffs over his teammate who's been here for 7 years now. So I mean, he's another guy that could really benefit from just going out and whipping ass and winning 5 Xfinity championships. Instead, he's in a Cup team. Not to say he's a bad driver, because I do think he's a wheelman, and he's definitely proven me wrong in some of my opinions over him last couple of years. But I don't think he's a championship caliber driver like Tyler Reddick. I don't think we see any more other than a win here and there for him. I don't think we see him grab 3-4 wins a year. And I don't think we ever see him compete for a championship in the Cup Series.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be a playoff driver on and off throughout his career, just based on luck and circumstance for other drivers. But when it comes to Tyler Reddick, obviously, if anybody's been listening for a while, they know that Tyler Reddick's my second favorite driver. I love his tenacity behind the wheel and his talent. My dad says that he made him step up his game. Yeah, that did happen to Austin Dillon. And I'm going to go on the conspiracy theory side and say that Austin Dillon is the top car, even though he's not the top talent at his granddad's race shop. Because look at Texas last year. I feel like that move when he won that race was based on the fact that he's in the 3 car and not Tyler Reddick. Because Tyler Reddick could have easily won that race on the same strategy. And I think we saw that again at Michigan. He was given the better car. Tyler Reddick outperformed him just based on the wreck. But I feel like he drove a better race that day than Austin Dillon would have, even if he finished ahead of him in the final standings due to not wrecking.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch Dillon versus Reddick next year because I feel like it's one of those pairings where either driver could get the upper hand.
So, with that being said, that's our kind of season review on those guys that didn't make the show for the playoffs. But we are going to move on to 2 next-gen kind of announcements, things that's come out before we get into our final segment of the night. And I do want to say, guys, I'm going to start with Colton on this one. We found out with the 23XI announcement that we are moving the number forward, and that is a done deal. So, Colton, how do you feel about that?
To me, I would rather them say to the teams, you have the option of putting it anywhere from here to here, rather than force all the teams to move it forward. I understand why they're doing it from a business standpoint. I don't like it. I do think it makes the cars kind of tacky, but it can be done right. We've seen examples floating around on Twitter of it done right. I think a big thing is going to be not shrinking the number down. And I think another thing, and I pointed out to the 45 car in the rule book, that 45 is actually too far forward. The number can't be anything past the A post, and that number definitely was past the A post. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's not as big of a gripe to me as some other people, as long as it's between the wheels and as long as it's a really good size, because that's what we use to identify drivers nowadays. We don't have the season-long sponsorships like we used to. As long as it's a good size and we can easily make it out and it's between the wheels, I'm going to be okay with it. Granted, it can be done horribly wrong, but we've seen ugly race cars forever.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. The only thing that kind of bothers me is like I don't understand the logic behind it. I know that people say it increases ROI and all that stuff, but how come during NASCAR's peak, no sponsor ever complained about we don't get enough space on the cars? You never heard that at NASCAR's height. Yet now all of a sudden, when NASCAR's kind of half struggling and half thriving, they're all like, oh my god, we need to fix the numbers now. So it makes you wonder like the placement of the numbers really must not be the reason why sponsors are leaving. And I don't think that
It's as if
moving the
Nathan
number
is a genius.
right.
And
I don't think
NASCAR
moving the
are a
numbers
bunch
a
of
foot in
fucking
this
biddling
direction is going to make
idiots.
it come back.
Yeah, I told Nate, like, hey, if Lowe's or Home Depot or CarQuest,
Yeah.
if they come back into the sport, I will eat my words on saying that the number
Right.
increase the sponsorship. But
And they have to say it too because like, they have to say, "Oh, we wanted to come back because of the ad space."
yeah, like, oh, there's more ad space, we're coming back. That's if
Yeah,
they say
I'll shut up
that,
if they say that.
I'll shut up. I'll start buying 2022 diecast. I will eat my words completely and say this is the best move NASCAR has ever made. I will publicly make a video of that if that even happens. But really, when it comes to like the number change and stuff, like I'm kind of with Colton. Like, I mean, I know it's just a number, but it's also just like a nostalgic type of thing for me.
Yeah.
Like why are we trying to rebrand? I know we're going with the next gen and we're trying to change all this stuff. Like why?
Yeah,
Like
right.
we saw the iRacing invitational stuff with the next gen and they have the numbers right in the middle. It's perfectly fine. You look at Kurt Busch's show car, like the only real difference is they just made the sponsor a little bit bigger. Like, now I can see what sponsored is. It's not like I didn't know what it was before, but like what are some teams gonna do if they're like? It's not like a lot of teams are going to get a lot of brand new sponsors and stuff. It's still going to be the exact same thing, except the logos are just a little bit bigger. Like, I don't know. It's just like it really just doesn't make any logical sense to me because you're going to see. I think you're going to see a bunch of schemes like the All-Star race that are just going to be half-ass paint schemes thrown. Like the graphic designers are just going to like, oh, let's make the scale a little bit bigger. You'll see like Kevin Harvick's Busch Light scheme. It's going to be the exact same thing, except let's add a little beer can on here. That'll fill that space. So, and like I said, if we start getting more sponsors, we see old sponsors come back and say like, hey, there's more ad space, then I'll eat my words. But until then, I'm just like, why do we have to change something that's not broke? Why are we trying to rebrand? That's not necessary. Like, just keep things the same. Nobody wanted this. You look on Twitter, you look at all the comments. I barely see any like, "Oh, this is awesome." All I see is just people complaining about it. I am one of those people. I will fully admit I will
Your
complain.
tweets are hilarious, by the way.
Oh God!
Your tweets with the Monster Energy paint scheme or the M&M's paint scheme say, "Man, I really can't tell who's sponsoring this. Someone help me."
Yeah, I don't know yet. Like, man, I think we need to move the numbers. I don't know who's a sponsor. I don't know. We need to move the numbers. We got to move.
Okay, all right. Before I get into a rant, I'm glad that you just brought up the Gen 4 car. You guys have said some shit that I didn't even need as ammunition, but is part of my ammunition. Look at the Gen 4 car. Measure the distance between the end of the rear quarter panel and the front of the wheel that starts the rear quarter panel. Tell me how much difference that is between that car and the next gen car. I'm assuming it's not as big as everybody thinks. We have big ass panels on the Gen 6 cars, so that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start there. Secondly, Jared brings up the iRacing numbers were center door. They still are. I'm not sure if the iRacing platform has updated that since the announcement with the 45 car being shown. And you could see sponsors just like that. Thirdly, to everyone on Twitter who's been telling me it's not a big deal, no. We've had the same number placement since at least 1972. It is and always has been a traditional part of NASCAR. I'm the first to tell you that traditions can change, but this is one that just doesn't even make sense, right? So you're pissing off fans because, like me, they're probably pissed off because it looks bad, and it's going to take a little bit getting used to, and you can still see the sponsors. So giving them more space when there was a huge-ass space in front of the number that hasn't been filled for years sounds like a little bullshit to me. And if you go all the way back to the beginning of the sport, you see this same number placement except for cars like the fabulous Hudson Hornet, right? Maybe that one car that you see, the Gatorade 88. I don't know if that was actually a Darrell Waltrip car or not. For I believe what was the Goodies Dash series. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you continue to make all these damn changes, you are going to lose fans. If you lose fans, you lose sponsors. They don't give a fuck about 4 extra square inches on the door. I guarantee you they're not coming back because of the problems that you did wrong and you will not address. Fans have left personally that I know. I work with 12 people. All 12 of them used to watch NASCAR. They tell me they don't watch because of stages, they don't watch because the playoffs don't make sense, and they don't watch because racers have retired that they grew up watching. You can't fix the third one, but you can fix the first 2. You continue to make changes. There are a lot of people that don't like this car coming out because it sounds bad. Okay, that's fine. As far as technology, I'm good with. Some fans don't like it. They're going to leave. They don't like the single lug nut. They're going to leave. You keep hemorrhaging fans like you have since the COT came out, of course you're going to lose sponsors. Moving the number is just pissing more people off and sweeping the fact that you've made all these problems over the last 15 years just under the rug, like, oh shit, it didn't happen. And that's my rant for tonight. If you guys want to add something, you can. I'm just going to try and relax and get my blood pressure down.
We could go all night on this.
Yeah, like I think he basically nailed everything that Jared was trying to highlight tonight before the recording. Like, it's all about, like, there has to be purpose behind the change. I don't really think 4 extra feet or inches or whatever for numbers justifies the purpose. Like, it's not going to make the sponsors magically come back. And if it does, it does. But I don't think it's going to work.
Half the part, if you take outside of the NASCAR spectrum, if you look from a marketing perspective, people like simple shit and people like stuff to say the same. So when you go and you break the brand identity of what a race car in NASCAR should look like, you're going to piss fans off. That's going to have people not buy your product. And for us fans, not going to the racetrack is buying the product that the sponsors are putting money into. So if you don't have people to look at the stickers, no one's going to pay to put the stickers on the cars. And that's what it boils down to. And it doesn't make sense. I hate it. Thanks, I hate it. That's it. Next with the next gen car, we had Seabell come out and say at the Bristol test that he was running slower on the straightaways. I guess he was a little bit faster in the corners because his pace was about race pace as the Bristol night race, but he was doing single car testing runs. I'm sure the speeds will come up before anyone says that they're slower. On these short tracks, the speeds will come up with data, with the fact that we're not testing. I'm sure they're not going 100%. That's where I'm at. But his comment said that they're trying to go full throttle on speedways. I'm assuming that is everything above Darlington. I had hope, but you guys told me that's too dumb to do, and I guess you guys proved yourselves right and me sad today. So Colton, I'll go ahead and let you start with this change as well.
I mean, I saw this coming. I was not one that was supporting the next gen, but I was cautiously optimistic and said, okay, well, I'll be patient and wait and see what comes out of these tests and whatnot. But I mean, we all knew that NASCAR wasn't going to go back to how the racing was 15 years ago with this next package. We would have seen a change this year so they kind of get the drivers ready for it. I knew this is exactly where they were going, to wide open everywhere and try to get pack racing everywhere. It's not a good look for the fans. The fans definitely don't like it, like we've seen and we've heard for months and months and months now. The drivers don't like it. We hear them say all the time how easy it is and how kind of boring it is. I think this is only getting us a step closer to more gimmicky racing. It's not really flat out racing. Nowadays, when I think of the best stock car drivers in the world, I look at the Bubba Pollards. I look at the Ty Majeskis and guys like that. I don't really look at Ryan Preece, and I don't really look at Quinn Houff and the Cup Series guys. I'll look at the Xfinity Series before I look at them as the best stock car drivers in the world, and this just keeps reiterating my opinion. It's getting too easy. What the hell?
Yeah.
I think
Before Nathan chimes in, I do want to say he said something at the beginning of the show, and that was basically what we're doing is stripping the purity of racing. From what I took from that is, what is NASCAR? Is NASCAR entertainment or is it a sport? Because it seems like we've lost the substance to be a sport anymore, and now we're actually turning into that WWE standard. So I mean, Nathan, bounce off of what Colton and I just said.
Something. The last thing I'm going to say, because I don't want to like beat a dead horse, but it's you kind of have to at this point. Steve O'Donnell in 2018, there's a quote from Matt Weaver that he said that NASCAR is not looking at pack racing everywhere. We don't want that to be our identity. And now look at them, and it's like it's such a bad look because everybody has talked about how you can't trust NASCAR leaders, and now it's kind of coming to fruition. Everybody knows that you can't even take the sports leaders for their word, then you can't really trust them on anything. Whether it's big or small. Like it's just bad all around. Like it's just a bunch of issues with the people in the sport from the ground up almost.
Yeah. I'll go with my favorite quote. NASCAR is now considered the National Association of Stock Car Aero Racing. That is aero racing now, because that is what we're doing. Because if we're gonna have every race like Michigan and that's how every mile and a half track is going to be. And I really see with the upcoming schedule, we're going to see a third of the races are going to be the super speedway types, and I'm counting that now as your Michigan Atlantas and Daytona Talladega. Another third is going to be road courses, because I fully expect us to have at least 10 road courses in the near future. And the other third will be the short tracks, and we're probably going to continue to cut that down, because what will probably happen is we're probably going to add a second dirt race just because, and we'll probably lose another true short track race when we could be having more short track racing where the cars actually race. And one of the things I remember at the Indy road course is they're saying about how they're beating and banging, like, hey, this is just like short track racing. I'm like, if you want that, just go to a short track. We don't need to be going to road course racing. He's like, oh, he brought in his inner short track. I'm like, dude, just go to a short track. That's simple as that. But yeah, you guys hit the points. So
that makes a lot of sense.
We could do a
2-hour episode on this.
Listen,
we really could.
I swear to God, Jared, if there are 10 road courses on the schedule next year, a third almost of the races, I might clock out. I might come on this podcast and talk about IndyCar and Formula One and let you motherfuckers handle
it's going to
NASCAR,
happen.
That is ridiculous.
Blaming you, Jared.
Gen 7, the next gen, is basically set up to be a road course racing car. It looks exactly like the Australian V8 supercars. So if there are not 10 road courses on the schedule in the next 5 years, then I don't know. But that's just my prediction. In the next 5 years, you're going to see 10 road courses on the schedule. 2 street courses, probably 3 roval types.
I just hate it because I feel like you're right.
I'm just speaking the truth because
why are we talking about street courses and also
it's all fun and games till they add the Chicago Street Course as one of the All-Star races just for a test. So just you wait for
All-Star race. No, they'll put that as a points race. I'm pretty sure.
You wait. There's going to be a road course for the All-Star race in the next 3 years. I'm calling that. Mark that time down. 1:43:20. That's my bold prediction for the next 3 years. We're going to have a road course All-Star race. Just
get me started about the test at the All-Star race. Oh, man.
You wait. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
I come to this sport in particular because I grew up around it. I grew up it as an escape from my reality. Why are you fuckers trashing what the sport used to be? I have not been one of these fans. I have not been one of these fans for the past 15 years. I have not been one of these fans that complain about everything for the past 15 years. It has been since the NA 18 package has come out. I have went from loving this sport to hating the fact that I'm watching it turn into something and it never should have been in the first place.
I remember growing up, the only thing I ever complained about was Jimmy Johnson winning too much. I never complained about anything else that they did. I never complained about the schedules. I never complained about how the cars race. Was literally that was like, and that it was childish. Like, come on, like it's not a big deal. Now it's like, oh, I hate the schedule changes. I hate all these road courses. I hate the number changes. I hate this next gen. Like, there's just so like I hate that I complain about this, but yet I'm a NASCAR fan. You know, it's sad that it's come to that point. Heck, we're doing a podcast. We're doing a podcast. We're on an hour and 45 minutes, and half of it has been us. Half of it's been us complaining about something we're supposed to like. Come on.
I mean, it's like raising a kid to be someone that comes up as a good citizen, and then they go out and start, slinging drugs and doing murders and shit. Like, it's like you hate to see it, but like you still love the dude. I don't know. With that being said, we'll end this segment, and we will start off with you, Jared. You said that you guys wanted to talk about something kind of in the realm of possibility of what could come. You started off with the 10 races on road courses, 2 dirt series races, and more stages, whattever. And you're calling it Sarcasticar. So kind of lead us into this.
I love it.
Let's get into this. You completely missed all of this, like post Michigan, where us three literally just went on a rant on how NASCAR could be. But then as we're joking about it, like, oh wait, this could actually be like a reality here. But yeah, like for some of the things that I was thinking, like we're probably going to get 10 road courses. Probably have what else do we talk about?
I've got a whole list of things. If they're gonna go gimmicks, let's go full gimmick. Let's take all the chains off. Let's go full WWE. I want to see a fan vote for one of the drivers in the Final Four.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to win to get in, and then just anyone else in the whole series.
Yep. So 3 drivers are locked in. 1 is a fan vote.
Even if they've been eliminated from the playoffs already?
Yep. Yeah. Quinn Houff. Okay.
What you got?
Most popular driver from the year before automatically locked into the championship 4.
Yep.
So that right there, you have 2 championship 4 guys: fan vote and the most popular driver from the year before.
Yeah, and plus, you know why Phoenix is a finale, right? Like, there's no other place where you can go 8 wide into turn 1. Like, that's what NASCAR wants. They want a green, white checker to determine the title, and like they just want chaos.
Big time. I'm down for the
fan vote. I mean, if we're gonna go gimmicks, let's go full gimmick. Let's not half-ass it here.
All right, hey, Daytona 500, last race of the year. That's where we're screwing Phoenix. We're going Daytona 500 to the last race. Guess where we're gonna start the season at? We're gonna go back to Sonoma as the first race.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to the Daytona Beach course for the second race. So we're starting the season off with 2 road courses, not the Daytona 500. The Daytona 500 is going to be the first week in November as the grand finale with your championship 4 that 2 are already locked in that don't even need to race, that they don't even need to race the whole year. They can we already have 2 championship contenders that haven't even raced a single race all year, and it's at Daytona. So those 2 cars could hook up, and hey, your top 2 finishers in the championship only raced 1 race in the year. That's all that matters. That counts.
I want to see a double charter system where you can charter your car and lock it into the races, and you can pay an extra $1 million a year to make sure they start in the top 15.
Yes.
Holy shit. That's essentially what they're doing with the playoff drivers right now, not having qualifying. So, I mean, we're already halfway there.
Right. Colton also put in our chat, no qualifying ever again. Nate said 4 wide restarts, mandatory 4 wide restarts every race. Okay, 24 drivers make the playoffs. Playoffs extended to 16 races. Caution clocks. We need to bring the caution clocks back. That's what we need to bring back.
Don't bring the caution clocks back.
If fuel mileage becomes an issue, automatically throw a caution so everyone gets back on the same cycle. So if someone tries to short pit, guess what? The caution's coming out so everyone else can pit.
I'm trying to think of other gimmicks that would be good.
Man, I got a whole list here.
Let's keep hitting. Let's keep hitting them.
I want a mandatory overtime every single week.
That
shit can actually happen. So I don't even know that that's a joke.
At the end of 500 miles, you're going to throw the caution. You're going to stack them up. 2 to go. Go.
All right. How about this? This is kind of off topic real quick. There's 10 races left. Let's do an over-under how many green, white checkers there will be the last 10 races.
6.
Okay, that's pretty square. I was thinking 5 or 6. I'll go 6 also. Talladega is obviously going to be a green, white checker. Phoenix will probably be a green, white checker. Martinsville will probably be a green, white checker. Where else? The Roval.
We're going to get like a random one, like Kansas or something.
Roval will be a green one. Yeah, Kansas will be just because it's going to bunch the field up. It's going to be like Michigan because it's a 550.
Right. Kyle Larson is going to lead like 2/3 of the race. Caution for debris comes out with like 25 laps left.
I'm going to say if a driver leads any more than 20% of the race, they're automatically given a 1 lap penalty.
Damn.
Oh my God.
Damn.
They don't. I mean, fans apparently don't want drivers walking away with the wins. So park them on pit road, give them a 1 lap penalty, go.
Oh, Nathan,
I'll raise you one better. I'll raise you one better. Okay. Playoff drivers starting first week of the playoffs all the way through the championship start at the rear of the field in inverse order of their current point standings. They start a lap down and are not eligible for a lucky dog until stage 2.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. That's kind of cool. How about we just get rid of points and whoever wins the last race is the champion?
Yeah, final 40, not final 4.
Yeah. No points the whole season. Everyone's just racing just for fun, just for shits and giggles.
Yeah,
Whoever wins the last race, that's your champion. No black flags or anything. We can make it like a demo derby, like last man standing. Let's just go to Bowman Gray, throw the cars out there. I'm like, yeah, you guys can race as long. Literally, last car stand. Make it an enduro race. That'll determine your champion.
That's gonna be a season finale. It's 24 hours of Bowman Gray.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool, actually. I'd like that. Or let's bring back. Or if we want to go with a championship race, let's just make it like Cars was, and just have your 3-4 cars in there. Or even better.
That one as much.
Even better, actually. Since we already have our 2 championship 4 locked in with the fan vote and the most popular driver, whoever finishes last in points is guaranteed a spot in the championship 4. So basically, there's basically one spot left open for the whole season.
Yeah. How about this? Every race, we don't even race. Okay, just stay with me now. Whoever doesn't have a charter doesn't race. Okay, so it's an elimination event. We're going to make every race a multiple of 6 so that every 6, the multiple of 6 X laps, however the money that is, we eliminate the last place driver. So after 35 times of doing this, that's how we award the winner. The point system now is a cumulative of this. So if you get eliminated, you're basically putting in average. Well, your next race is now averaged to the previous one, and then you just sweep the person who has the last place average after 2 races out, after 3 races out, after 4 races out of the championship. So it's like a double elimination style. You're eliminating during the race and during the championship, because why not? It's just so convoluted it doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I feel like another thing we need to do is, we can do race suspensions for guys that lead. Say they lead over 500 laps in the season. They're like, hey, this guy's suspended for a race. You led 500 laps on the year already.
Ryan Blaney won back-to-back. He's suspended for 2 races now. So if you win back-to-back, you're out for 2 weeks. Here's another one.
If you have over a 1 second lead, then there's an automatic caution.
I want to see something like Formula E does, where the fans can vote on something. They'll do like the fan boost, but I also want to see like a fan drag, where like you can vote on the person you want to slow down, and all of a sudden you see Kyle Larson just lose like 50 horsepower.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, let's do this. Let's make this real. You can do it once per stage, but the driver that you do in each stage is immune to it in stages 2 and 3.
There you
I got
go.
another one. Like,
Oh,
I think Alex's dad commented some about motocross. So maybe we should start having motocross tracks with like the bumps and everything and the jumps altered.
we already have that
like a
Indy Road
rally
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did, didn't
we? We could just put those bumps on the track on the oval. So just put them in the middle of the racing line.
Why
Like, we
not?
can't
I
avoid
mean,
it.
let's
We gotta
just
go
go on. You know what? Fuck it. Let's do full Mario Kart. We can't do
let's
quite the
go.
same stuff with the mystery boxes, but we can do. You know what? Let's do what's
go
better
Hot
than
Wheels
Mario
tracks.
Kart. Death race. Fuck it. Let's do death race shit. Let's start putting
Dude,
spikes
go
out
to
there,
loop.
pits. All of a sudden, let's change the route mid race.
Turn the sprinklers on.
Oh, like
Yeah,
sprinklers. Yeah.
let's just go like Tony Stewart said. We got to find a figure 8 course, and let's just do a figure 8 course, or like have one stage you're racing one direction, then while the second stage you go road course, and the next one you have split the field in half, and they each go in different directions. While or even split it up into 3. One person does one group does the road course, one group does the regular way, one group goes backwards. Heck, you can even do it four groups or whatever, and have the road course backwards. So you can
Daytona
have
500 with Joker laps. The
No.
There you
infield
go.
road course, the infield road course has to be done at least 3 times per stage.
There you go.
What
I like
we
the
need-
Joker lap idea.
Oh,
there.
that's-
What we need
that-
is we need a loop, like a Hot Wheels type thing, like a loop.
Oh shit.
Oh, let's go. Let's get that. They're
Like
probably
X
not.
Games.
They're not fast enough to do that though. With that,
No, we're gonna need to. Let's just try it anyways. Like we're gonna reduce the horsepower to 100 and see what happens.
See, the
100.
inner child in me,
Let's-
my kid from the 1990s, being a 90s kid, I'm like, hell yeah, NASCAR racers is going to be real.
Yeah.
Oh,
Medium trucks. Put ramps out there. Backstretch of Daytona. You got 3 jumps.
Oh, yeah.
or no, they have to do the chicane on the oval. Like they have to do the chicane on the backstretch.
You see him gripping
Just the chicane. No other part of the road course. Just the
Yeah,
chicane.
Moon Car does it.
Yeah.
Just the chicane.
Yep.
Like Moon
4
Car
wide
does that.
starts and restarts.
Please.
Do the
Okay,
race.
so hold on. I'm glad you brought this up, Colton. There is a kid, I cannot remember his name. He's a huge Joey Logano fan. And he actually did this in one of Speed's segments way back when he was still in the 20 car. He said that we should restart and start races at the bigger tracks. Daytona, Talladega, Pocono, Auto Club, and Michigan. We should start them 3 wide like they do in the Indy 500. So I don't know about you guys, but I think that's a real thing that we should just do because why not? NASCAR wants chaos anyways.
May as well. So let's just get the first person to spin their tires and just clog up the whole field and take half the field out of turn 1. I'm all for that. So then we can
That's
start.
what we want. Otherwise, we wouldn't have destroyed half the field based on a shitty curb on turn 6.
I need Josh Bilicki needs to start winning some races now. Like I need to see him up there. I don't want to see.
Hey,
this
that's
guy.
a guy that's finished in the top 10 in the Cup Series now. So you watch your damn mouth, Jared.
Yeah.
I respect Josh Bilicki. I hope he wins. He needs a win. I'd love to see him get a win. Especially in that situation where half the field's taken out. Like we need that to happen. We need more of those guys to do well. Let's make
I
it
want
happen.
teams to draw tires. So you're going to go to NASCAR, you're going to draw a number, and that's the set of tires you get. And one of those sets is guaranteed to go flat within 10 laps.
Oh my god.
Oh,
basically
NASCAR roulette. Fuck yeah.
How about this? NASCAR distributes flat tires, but they don't tell which team where they're at or how many they get. They could get 3, they could get 5, they could get 10, they could get all. Let's just shuffle the deck up. Someone's gonna blow a tire midway.
We need a Royal Rumble. That's what we need.
NASCAR Royal Rumble.
So you start 10 drivers, and then after that, every 5 laps, you release another driver.
That's good.
Oh, shit.
Chase Elliott he's only got to run 5 laps. If he runs 5 laps quicker than anyone else, he wins.
Okay. So you can only lose positions once you've been on track.
Only lose
What
position
this
by
means is that when we go to races, we're going to start the last 10 qualifiers, and we're going to release them out every 5 laps after that. But these guys
there's no
automatically are
qualifying.
on the lead lap because they qualified higher.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I dig it.
Absolutely.
Let's run a Talladega race with the trucks, Xfinity, and Cup and ARCA. Let's throw ARCA in there. Let's have four series racing at Talladega at once.
Jared, I was
I'd be
with you
fine
until you
with
said
that.
ARCA. I don't want people to die. They're
No,
driving.
That's not like Road America.
That's the point. We need to take the catch fences off, take the walls off.
Oh yeah, let's get rid of safer barriers too,
Yeah.
because we obviously don't care about safety anymore.
Fans
I
want
have a better idea.
Fans want
Instead
danger.
of it being a multi-class race with all 4 different series, like whoever's the last guy standing wins. There's no classes. Like it's all for the same trophy.
Yeah, let's do
So
that.
are we saying? So in this, Nathan, are you saying just put each car on track with their prospective drivers? They don't choose. They don't change drivers. Just whoever just doesn't pass out first, or whoever passes out last wins the race.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no classes. Like if you win the race, then you win overall.
Jimmy Johnson's coming back because he's going to blow everybody out of the water with his fitness.
Yeah, let's screw
Jimmy
the
Johnson ain't coming back for this shit.
no point.
I'm thinking like you saw Hamlin's heart rate. He'd probably make it pretty far. He's average like 90 beats a minute. Daytona.
Speaking of Denny Hamlin, actually, you guys see the shit that's going on with Denny Hamlin on Twitter?
Yeah,
There's not enough information for us to even
Yeah, I
get
don't want
into
to say
that.
anything.
I just saw them.
It's just-
That's
It's dirty laundry, right? You know, I don't want to comment on that stuff.
it's
All right.
yeah.
Like I don't want to be like the guy that's nosy and getting in there.
Yeah, that's something
Yeah.
probably shouldn't have been taken to Twitter, but
Well, it's been
Yeah, that's
kind of fun, but I think I'm going to rein Sarcastic Car in. We'll probably do this a couple more times during.
it'll probably
time.
when's the next 550 race?
It's going to be
Vegas.
the next
Las
round, so it'll be
Vegas.
Vegas.
Oh, Vegas actually puts on good races.
Oh,
though.
I'll be at that race.
Oh, all right. You can tell. That's
All
right.
right. So one more thing before we sign off, Jared, you sly dog. I picked Chris Buescher. You picked Bubba Wallace.
That's right. You
Oh,
did.
And you win by default because Chris Buescher got penalized.
Oh, that's-
I beat you fair and square on the track, but that just didn't happen.
apparently not.
So
if
you got the extra
disqualified.
bonus point going into the playoffs. So you sit at 1 point. Nathan, the regular season champion, sits at 2 points. That is not a race lead. We are moving the points to 3-2-1 now that we've got 4 people for the next 10 rounds. I am going to make it a little bit difficult on everybody, though.
Oh,
So listen
Top
up.
16.
The rules are about to be spoken.
playoff
Fan
rules.
Fuel playoff picks. They're going to start with Colton first, and then I'm going to go, and then the 2 guys with bonus points, Jared and Nathan. We will, run the shuffle on this as the points or the positions fall starting next week on who picks first. Worst goes first. 10 drivers, 10 races. You can only use those 10 drivers once. There's 16 drivers in the playoffs, but to make this a little bit harder, I'm knocking 4 of them straight off the map. So the top 12 in points after the regular season will be eligible. So in no particular order, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, William Byron, Joey Logano, and Denny Hamlin will be the guys that you
Hold on,
are
I
able
gotta
to
pull
pick
up that
from.
top 12.
And
so
you
I
can
make a
only
pick.
pick them once in the next 10 races.
Oh shoot!
Hey, screw all you guys. I'm going Denny Hamlin.
No, just get him out of the way. Get him out of the way. That's
He's
smart.
He's
Get him out of the way. He's getting it done this week in Darlington.
Okay,
Wow,
well,
it's sending.
I'm going to have to pick a little bit of a strategy to kind of get us into the next couple of rounds. I think I'm going to waste some guys that might not do good. I'm going to go ahead and take my 0 at Darlington, and I'm going to pick – I think I'm going to pick William Byron. He might give me a point, but I think I'll take the 0 with him.
Okay. All right, Jared, who you got?
Kevin Harvick.
Ooh, yeah.
No explanation. You're just going to straight hard.
Yeah, I'm just getting him out of the way, but he also he won.
So I can pick anyone in the top 16 in points then, or just
Anyone in the top 12 that I just stated. So the
Harvick
people
is
that
12.
aren't eligible are
Harvick's
Christopher Bell.
Harvick's not. Wait,
Uh,
Harvick's not in the top 12, is he?
well, he was
No.
in regular season standings.
Wait,
So
what?
the
So
ones
not
that
like-
aren't Michael McDowell, Christopher Bell, Eric Almirola, and Tyler Reddick are not on the table. Everyone else
Okay.
is.
It's disrespect for
All
Christopher.
right,
Bell.
yeah, that's
It is
disrespect.
disrespect.
Man, I wanted Reddick for
Disrespect.
Darlington. He was going to be my like waste of a pick that could also do good at that track, man.
I'll still
I
go.
thought I had something.
I told you I was going to make this shit hard. You got a 2-point lead.
I'll still go Kevin Harvick. I think he's won there before. I think eventually, I'm hoping SHR shows up. Like he'll show up. He's got to win. He's got to win. I know I've been saying this literally all season. He's got to win at some point. So I'm just going to use him as my first pick for this week. So let's go Kevin Harvick.
All right.
Andy's running a sick Busch Light scheme this week.
Is Kurt Busch eligible before I make my pick?
Yes, he is.
All right, yeah, I think I'm going to go Kurt Busch then. He's hard to predict, but I think that he's been pretty good on the 750s, and Kurt could win anywhere. He always wins weird races, and I think that it's 750 track. I think that he'd be an all right pick for Darlington because every once in a while he runs good there. So I'm just going to throw one out there.
All right, so as the season stands, it looks like we've all picked pretty mediocre picks. But when it comes to the Darlington racetrack, the 4 and the 11 both have wins there recently.
Colton's is not mediocre at all.
What the hell?
Well, no, I mean you got to think of the field that we're only got 12 drivers, so these are all pretty mediocre picks within the realm of where we are with these 10. I think we're all playing it safe, but also going for it. I think William Byron is definitely someone who can get it done, but I also think I'm expecting to get 0 points this week. So we'll see how that strategy works out for me. I'm interested to see how this works because we've made it so hard. It's going to be glorious. With that being said, this is the end of the show. I want to thank everyone for watching, for listening on our Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google pages, or anywhere else that you listen. We do have this Friday, we will be launching the website. Jared, I will let you handle a little bit of that. As always, just kind of hype us up because you look pretty hype right now.
Oh, I'm always hyped. We've been working on our Fan Fuel Motorsports website. We still need some more of your content, you fans. Please give us some feedback. Nate, maybe if you want to write something about your Daytona experience, we could add that on there. Alex, we can write about your Atlanta experience still. Yeah. I still got to write my Pocono experience because I just have had absolutely no time to actually sit down and write that like
That's
I want to.
That's what happens when you have 17 part-time jobs.
Yeah, I know. It sucks sometimes. But either way, I know the site right now is filled with some Cup news. It's got some race previews. It's got some race recaps in there. It's all put together. We just need some more content from you fans. And if all we get right now is some race previews and some opinionated stuff on there, that's all right. But we're still looking to build this site. If once you guys see how it turns out and you want to contribute to it, that's perfectly fine because that's exactly what we want. We want content for you, from you, the fans, because we are fan-fueled motorsports. All right, so definitely that will be launching on Friday. We'll all be sharing and tweeting out the links. Tell your friends, and if you want to get involved with the website, you know who to message. All of our Twitter handles are here. So,
and then also our pinned tweet on Twitter at FanFuelMSM, capital F, capital F, capital MSM, has the link to a submission form that you can email to us at fanfuelpodcast@gmail.com.
That's cool.
Use the link. Use the link. If you think you're a NASCAR fan, this will be the site for you because we are going to have. Oh yeah, right there, Fan Fuel members. We are going to have nice set website for you fans, and eventually you're going to be a part of the process that we hopefully can continue to grow content. We can grow this podcast. We can grow you fans out there. You will get shouted out. You can speak your minds. You can be like us. Just join the complaining party about whatever you think's wrong. And if you have stuff you want to share with us, please share it with us. If you have an old story about an old race from like early 2000s, or if you have an opinion about anything, send it our way. Like, we'd be happy to talk to you about it. We'd be happy to throw that article out there for more people to read. Like, I know if you want to follow Nathan, he always has some good stuff, whether it's statistical stuff, historical stuff. I like seeing his historical stuff. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. I completely forgot about that. Types of stuff like that. Please message us. Please help us get some more content in there. It's going to be good if you guys help us, but it'll only be good if you help us.
Yeah, and one more suggestion.
Go ahead.
I guess with our pit championship coming to a close, maybe we should get like a little trophy and call it the Mickey Mouse Cup, like for whoever wins the.
I will get us a trophy.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse
Well,
Club.
with
The
our
Mickey Mouse
website,
Championship.
I did want to say something else with our website. We're not just limiting this to NASCAR content. This is full on motorsports content. So we want your local stories as well from your tracks, kind of like Colton's Podunk, Intermountain Speedway, and all the way up to Talladega Super Speedway. Anything in between. If you're from Europe, hell, if you're watching and you're from Europe, well, welcome. It's probably really early in the morning for you. Go to sleep. But we want your stuff too. Fan experiences, what we should and shouldn't do at a racetrack when we go for the weekend, where to stay, where to eat while we're at the racetrack, and the surrounding towns. And then also, if you want to get weird, we're into that content too. So if you want to bring up some really weird shit that's happened at a racetrack, 15 years ago, you saw a race car get stuck on its drivetrain because it slammed into the mud and stood up straight. Tell us about that. Anything like that can happen at any of these racetracks that don't get coverage because there's not a national or even regional news site that's going around for it. So this is a story about us and our relationship with motorsports, but also yours as well. And we want the site to flourish so that you, the fan, can fuel your talk about motorsports alongside with us. As always, thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. Follow us on our Twitter at FanFuelMSM, capital F, capital MSM. Be looking out for us on Friday. And quick shout out to Roger Caruth, who just got a full-time Xfinity ride with Cesar Bascarella and Tommy Joe Martins at Alpha Prime Racing. He has been in contact with us, and we will be having him on the show very shortly, hopefully in the next week or two.
Got us a driver.
All right.
So first driver on Fan Fuel, and it's going to be
we're
pretty
big time
historic
now
for the podcast. So
Like we made it.
Yeah.
We made it.
be sure to look out for announcements on that, and you can get those again at Twitter. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening on our streaming partners.